Lucas Harrington, the arrogant and spoiled son of a millionaire, believes wealth makes him untouchable until a viral video of him insulting a hardworking waitress, Emily, turns the world against him. Before we dive into the story, let us know where you are watching from, and do not forget to subscribe to our channel. Lucas Harrington lived in a world where money was the answer to everything. As the only son of millionaire real estate mogul Victor Harrington, Lucas had never worked a day, never faced real consequences, and never cared about those beneath his status. Rules didn't apply to him, at least. That's what he believed. That evening, Lucas and his entourage stormed in a La Bella Bistro, one of the city's finest restaurants, where his father was an investor. They didn't have a reservation, but Lucas smirked as the hostess hesitated, then quickly found them a table. No one ever dared to tell a Harrington no. Seated in a prime spot, Lucas leaned back in his chair, exuding arrogance. "Let's see what kind of garbage they serve here," he muttered, laughing with his friends. Emily Carter, a hard-working waitress juggling 2 jobs to pay for her college tuition, approached the table. Despite being exhausted from a double shift, she put on her best professional smile. "Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to La Bella Bistro. Can I start you off with—" Yeah, water for the table. "And make it quick," Lucas interrupted without looking at her. His tone dripped with entitlement. Emily's polite expression didn't falter, though she was used to dealing with difficult customers. She quickly returned with a tray of drinks, carefully setting each glass down. Just as she placed Lucas's water, the tray wobbled slightly, and a few drops splashed onto the pristine white tablecloth. Lucas's head snapped up. The conversation at the table went silent. "Are you serious?" he scoffed, pushing back his chair dramatically. "You can't even do something as simple as pouring water? Is this what they hire around here? Clumsy, incompetent nobodies?" Emily's cheeks burned, but she kept her composure. "I'm very sorry, sir. It was an accident." "An accident?" Lucas repeated mockingly, raising his voice. His friends chuckled, enjoying the spectacle. "Maybe if you had a real skill, you wouldn't be stuck waiting tables." He sneered, flicking a crumpled napkin toward her as if she were trash. Emily felt the sting of humiliation, but refused to let him see her break. She clenched her fists, took a deep breath, and calmly wiped the table. A few nearby customers watched the scene in disapproval, but no one said anything. Lucas, satisfied with his display of dominance, smirked and leaned back. What he didn't realize was that someone had been filming the entire exchange, and by morning, the whole world would see it. Lucas Harrington awoke to the sound of his phone buzzing incessantly. Groggy and irritated, he reached for it, squinting at the screen. Dozens of missed calls, hundreds of notifications. His social media apps were exploding with comments and mentions. He scrolled through the messages, his heart pounding as he read the words flooding his timeline. Disgusting behavior. Entitled brat thinks he owns the world. Fire him from his daddy's company. Boycott Harrington Industries. Confused, he clicked on the attached video. There he was humiliating Emily in full HD. Every cruel word, every smug expression, every degrading comment had been recorded. The internet had already branded him a villain. The footage had been shared by news outlets, influencers, and even celebrities. #FireLucas was trending worldwide. Panic set in. He jumped out of bed and called his father. It went straight to voicemail. By the time he arrived at his father's corporate office, security barely let him inside. Victor Harrington stood behind his massive desk, arms crossed, his face a storm of fury. "You have no idea the damage you've done," Victor said, his voice dangerously calm. "Investors are pulling out. Clients are threatening to cancel contracts. The board is calling for your removal." "Dad, it's just some waitress," Lucas protested, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. His father's eyes darkened. "And that waitress just cost us millions. Do you think you're untouchable?" He slammed his hand on the desk. "Well, let's see how you handle life without my safety net." Lucas frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," Victor said, slowly standing, "you're cut off. Effective immediately. No cars, no credit cards, no luxury penthouse. If you want money, earn it." Lucas laughed, expecting this to be some kind of cruel joke. But then he saw the seriousness in his father's gaze. "Wait, you can't be serious." "Oh, I am. And since you humiliated a waitress, Let's see how well you serve tables. Lucas felt the floor drop beneath him. Victor handed him a folded piece of paper. Starting tomorrow, you'll be working at La Bella Bistro. If you quit, you're out of the family fortune for good. The spoiled millionaire's son, who had never worked a single day in his life, was about to get the lesson of a lifetime. Lucas Harrington had never felt exhaustion like this before. His feet ached, his back was sore, and his once perfect hair was now damp with sweat. The luxury lifestyle he had known was long gone. Now, he wore a cheap apron, carried trays heavier than he expected, and endured endless customers who barely acknowledged him. And the worst part? Emily was now his supervisor. Every mistake he made, spilling drinks, getting orders wrong, failing to keep up with the fast-paced environment, was met with a cool, unimpressed stare from her. Lucas, table 6 has been waiting for 10 minutes. You took their order, didn't you? She asked one evening, arms crossed. Lucas, breathless and overwhelmed, nodded. Yeah, I think so. You think so? Emily raised an eyebrow. You should be grateful I even let you work here. Her words struck like a slap. It was exactly what he had told her the night he humiliated her. Now the roles were reversed, and he finally understood how demeaning it felt. That night, Lucas lay awake in his small, run-down apartment. His phone, once filled with VIP party invites and luxury brand promotions, was now silent. No calls from his so-called friends. No messages of support. Just silence. For the first time, he realized how shallow his life had been. Over the next few weeks, something changed. Lucas stopped complaining. He started listening. He watched how the other waiters moved, learned how to balance trays, and even stayed after hours to help clean up. The work was grueling, but every shift taught him something new: humility, patience, and the value of hard work. And slowly, Emily noticed the difference. You're not half bad when you try, she admitted one night. Lucas chuckled, wiping down a table. Coming from you, that almost sounds like a compliment. She smirked. Don't push it. But the final twist came weeks later. One evening, the restaurant buzzed with an unusual energy. VIP guests had arrived. Lucas was busy clearing a table when he caught sight of the man sitting in the private dining section. Victor Harrington, his father. Lucas swallowed hard and straightened his posture. After their meal, Victor glanced at his son as he wiped down a nearby table. Their eyes met. When Lucas approached, he braced for another lecture, but his father simply handed him an envelope. Meet me at the office tomorrow. The next day, Lucas walked into his father's building not as an entitled heir, but as a man who had finally earned his place. Victor slid a document across the desk. You're back in the company, he said, then paused. But not as an executive. You'll be running the Harrington Foundation, providing scholarships, job training, and financial support for hardworking people like Emily. Lucas exhaled, stunned. Wait, you're serious? Victor nodded. You've learned your lesson. Now, go fix what you broke. For the first time in his life, Lucas felt something greater than power or privilege. He felt purpose. And this time, he wouldn't waste it. Lucas Harrington's journey from a spoiled millionaire son to a humbled, purpose-driven man had reshaped his entire outlook on life. Running the Harrington Foundation became more than just a job. It was a mission. He dedicated his days to meeting students burdened by tuition fees, single parents juggling multiple jobs, and veterans struggling to reintegrate into society. Each story reminded him of Emily, her resilience and grace under pressure. One afternoon, as Lucas reviewed scholarship applications, a familiar face entered his office. Emily. She had been invited to discuss potential programs for hospitality workers. You're doing it, huh? She said, a soft smile playing on her lips. Lucas nodded. I had a good teacher. They shared a moment of quiet understanding. Gone was the entitled young man who had once belittled her. In his place stood someone who had finally learned the value of respect and hard work. Emily eventually took a managerial role at La Bella Bistro, helping create fairer working conditions and opportunities for her staff. Lucas, inspired by her leadership, expanded the foundation's reach, even opening a vocational training center named in her honor. And as time went on, Lucas and Emily's paths crossed more frequently, both working to uplift those who were often overlooked. What began as a moment of humiliation turned into a lifelong partnership of change and compassion. Lucas would never forget the lesson he learned from the waitress. He once insulted a lesson that reshaped not just his future, but the futures of countless others. In a city where wealth often dictated worth, Lucas Harrington found that true value lay in the difference one could make in another's life. The spoiled millionaire's son was gone, replaced by a man with purpose, humility, and a drive to make amends for his past. Because sometimes, the harshest lessons lead to the most meaningful transformations. Have you ever faced a public mistake or humiliation that forced you to reflect on your behavior and grow from it? Please let us know in the comment below.